Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time zone it is, wherever you're in the world. It is your Lore Saviour, and this is the second time in less than a week that I've talked about Werewolf the Apocalypse. Again, with some very bad takes in my totally subjectively, objectively based opinion. And it comes from a comment left on the recent video where I was ranking the main World of Darkness game lines apart from Mummy, which I totally forgot about, as does everyone else, and Hunter the Reckoning, which was just a complete mishap on my part. If you haven't seen that video, go and watch it now. So the inspiration for this video, or the catalyst I think would be a better phrase for it, is this particular commenter here who is trying to convince myself and somebody else that Werewolf the Apocalypse is just a D&D reskin. Which, you know, just to rub the nipples of my ego for just a moment, you dare challenge my understanding of Werewolf the Apocalypse, you peasant! No, in all seriousness, I will happily have ideas and understanding of things challenged if I'm missing something, or if I have misunderstood something, I've gotten completely the wrong end of the stick. Well, that's absolutely fine. I love learning, like, you know, developing my intelligence and understanding of things so I can be a better human overall. But this, if it wasn't intended as a jokey comment, which I don't think it was, there's some big bull energy you got there to say that so proudly and confidently, my friend. Because you can really make any TTRPG sound like an extension of D&D, like a bit of D&D homebrew, if you really stretch things far enough. Like Vampire the Masquerade, you're summoned by the Prince, the ruling monarch of a kingdom, to go and retrieve a precious item, the prized ghoul, and along the way the players will have to deal with horrific monsters, the Sabbat. You see how silly that sounds? How that if we try and force everything into D&D, it kind of makes you look like a bit of a numpty, or at least in my subjectively objective biased opinion. Now, I very recently actually talked about Werewolf the Apocalypse being forced into the Vampire the Masquerade mindset, or the other way around, I guess. English is hard sometimes. When I was talking about a commenter on Redditor who was insisting that the VTM logos was a bit better. The video's going to appear on a card right now for you to go and watch, but I'm mentioning this here, you know, hence the talking about it twice in less than a week, but also I'm going to be repeating myself a little bit here, and it's that people are coming into Werewolf the Apocalypse with the wrong mindset. And if you're coming into Werewolf the Apocalypse believing it's just combat filled all the way through, then I feel that's just heavily misguided of you, because, yeah, Werewolf the Apocalypse is a lot more combat focused than the other World of Darkness splats. But you know what? First edition Vampire the Masquerade, you could argue, was more combat action focused, especially with a lot of its scenarios in the Succubus Club sourcebook, where a lot of them have you deal with various encounters around Chicago that can really only be resolved with a bit of fisticuffs, and things are a lot more lethal as well. So does that make Vampire the Masquerade a D&D extension? No. Well, what was first edition Werewolf like? Well, balance was as mythological as me telling you where I would put Mummy the Resurrection and World of Darkness Mummy first and second edition and Hunter the Reckoning in a tier list, ranking them like I did with the main World line games. But the point is that, yeah, it was very broken, and combat was, and still is, a huge part of Werewolf the Apocalypse. But why do all of those things happen? Why do the Guru go down into pits and the Umbra to take out Bane's spirits? Well, it's because you are tasked by your elders of a sept for which a bunch of Guru, you included, protect a Karen, to go and heal and protect Gaia, to stave off the forces of the apocalypse, to delay the inevitable, or, depending on the edition that you read, try and reverse the damage, if you want to be really hopeful about things. And I've talked about the elders and Karens and septs and this really deep, meaningful social and political nature of Werewolf the Apocalypse in that video I just mentioned, but also in their respective lore dives, which they've not done very well view-wise. But a lot of this, all this information is found in the books, and even with first edition, like the social dynamics of the pack interact with each other is an instinctive part of the game, because wolves are very social creatures, and there is a rite, a ritual, i.e. a magical social gathering that is dedicated to every fucking bowel movement and its mother in that game, and it only got more anal, you know, just putting a pun there, as the editions went on. There's, like, that's a super important element of Werewolf the Apocalypse. And just to say that it's just a reskin of D&D, that it's all just combat heavy, it's just a very bland, stereotypical mindset that I would expect to hear from somebody whose only experience of Werewolf the Apocalypse is from Vampire the Masquerade reading. That they haven't actually read with the material. If they have, they haven't engaged with it, and they haven't engaged their brain cells with it as well, which is so frustrating. And at some point I do want to do like a series of like how to run Werewolf the Apocalypse videos for you, just so I can carry on teaching you and showing everyone that there's a lot more to Werewolf the Apocalypse than just rip and tearing things away. Like, it's heavily nuanced, it's very social. There's some really strong themes there, like found family, and as I said, wolves are very social creatures, and it's not quite us against them, because it's a whole generational thing, like the sins of your elders and those that came before you have fucked up because they have just spent too much time fighting and fucking shit up. But they haven't sat down and worked out where things are going wrong, despite the oral storytelling vibes of passing one story on to the next. The rite of passage, which is a very spiritual thing, where the wolf and the pack become part of the guru nation. Yeah, it may involve combat, it may involve puzzles, which is something that the book talks about a lot. And in fact, one of the first Werewolf the Apocalypse books, the aptly named Rite of Passage, does give examples about how the different tribes go about completing said rites of passages. And you know what? Not all of them are combat focused. Some of them are a lot more spiritual or magical and social. And the takes on the auspices, ooh, that is real spicy shit right there. Like, I would only accept that sort of definition if somebody had come along and asked, hey, I want to get into Werewolf the Apocalypse, but I'm literally just trying to leave from D&D, like, how can I understand it better? And then somebody gave that. That's probably the only time I would accept that, in a very specific circumstance. And even then, I'd really have to bite down on the inside of my mouth not to say anything rude or offensive. I'll do my best to add to that, nicely of course, but yeah, it's just there's a lot more to the auspices than the fucking D&D class archetype stereotypes, which you would know if you bothered reading any of the core books. Like, whether it's 20th anniversary edition, I mean, for fuck's sake, even 5th edition Werewolf the Apocalypse, he does more to define the auspices than that fucking dumbass take, in my totally biased opinion. Now, when I did my lore dives on the auspices, which barely any of you watch, or the mega cut that I did, slapping all 5 parts together, because those are sort of the in thing at the moment, and people tend to like them, I used really a trio of books for that. Book of Auspices, Werewolf the Apocalypse Revised, why not 20th? Well, 20th is a lesser version of Revised in my opinion, especially with the fact that I know it's copied and pasted over. And funny enough, 1st edition, because there's a load of nuances in that original core book that you're not going to find anywhere else. So again, right back at the beginning of Werewolf the Apocalypse, there is a lot more presented with the auspices than just what you saw early on in this video. Like, using the Ragabash as an example, that's the one that's at the front of my mind, there is more to them to being sneaky assassin thief-like archetypes. Like, there's a whole mythology and a lore and a reasoning as to why they act the way that they do, why the Ragabash represents the new moon, and all the symbolism that surrounds all of that. And it basically boils down to, if you just dig a little bit beneath the surface level, is the fact that they're trying to teach lessons to the crew to be more vigilant and aware of their surroundings. And also, depending on your ask, to take a bit of a joke, because there's somewhat pranksters as well. But again, there's a method in their madness. But no, they're just thieves. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a D&D reskin. Like, Werewolf the Apocalypse is an oral storytelling game, which I've mentioned before, and it's part of the reason why I delivered the lore dives the way that I did. You know, starting about the basics, the auspices, the character and the sept, because that is how the guru would learn about their history in that particular order. And I spent a long time trying to debate which order to do things, asking some friends of mine who have been playing Werewolf the Apocalypse longer than I've been alive, give or take. You know, so they've got a lot more experience than I do, and that was the order that I was going to do. And I was going to do the tribes, but by that point I'd been fed up doing lore dives, and honestly quite frustrated that people weren't really watching what I was putting out, because they just want the tribes, they just want the lore and the mechanics and all the buzz around that, and that's not what we do with Lore by Night. We present things as accurately as we can, the histories and all the rest of it, which would mean talking about the auspices and all the rest of it, which is super important for the channel brand, I feel. But as nobody really wanted that anymore, I just thought, you know, fuck it, what's the fucking point of doing this anymore? And also, I started to write it, I didn't really enjoy it anymore, so might come back to it sometime, but right now, I don't think people are into lore dives anymore, honestly. It really frustrates me, and with this particular instance, it kind of angers and frustrates me that everything is constantly treated as like a homebrew or source book for D&D, that everything's just a reskin or reflavouring of things. Like, I was sharing this with a friend, and it's like putting every single fucking board game as backgammon. Like Monopoly is like a reskin of backgammon. Hungry fucking Hippos is a reskin of backgammon. You know, it's just, again, it doesn't make you sound very clever, it just makes you sound a little stupid, I'm not gonna lie. Which I hate to say, because, you know, it's alright to not know things and like to try and probe and work things out that way, but as you saw, this person like fucking doubled down on this. Like, so you're adamant in believing this, which, I mean, I suppose you're entitled to do, but it's not correct. Ooh, that might be some karma there. But yeah, it's just, I don't like it very much. Like, yeah, sure, D&D is a very versatile system, and you could do a lot to the game to make it feel like something else. But you could also just open your eyes, look around at the world around you, both physically, emotionally, and all the rest of it. But there's other games out there, like I've mentioned this point before, like when the Witcher series was all a big thing on Netflix, people talking about, oh, how to play Geralt of Rivia in fucking D&D. The Witcher TTRPG exists, again with the cyberpunk anime Edgerunners. It's just, come on people, let's try and play a different game. And those two specific examples are actually considerably easier than D&D, whereas D&D's got a load of maths and crunch all around it. Those two games uses a D10 and a handful of D6 damage, so it's not actually that different, because D&D, Once Upon a Moon, was pretty much done with damage with D6s. So you could do that, and if you wanted to treat it like that, of course, but obviously there's a lot more to these things than just being reflavorings and reskinning of D&D, especially when that game has always been a combat-heavy experience, and the only real social elements to it has only been perpetuated with the likes of Stranger Things and Critical Role, creating the impression that's the game is how it should always be played, and how you should play it, where not really, I suppose. I mean, people may play it like that because they get into their characters, but the game itself, it's not really designed that with all that in mind. Now, of course, I might be missing some bits here. I'm not the biggest D&D know-it-all. Actually, I know very fuck all about it, to be honest. So I could be completely wrong there. And there may be some, like, insider Werewolf the Apocalypse lore, for lack of a better phrase, or development history, where there was a conversation or an interview somewhere, someplace, somehow, where somebody said, yeah, we made the auspices like that to try and get people to latch onto it a bit more. I'd be very surprised if such a thing would exist, knowing and reading a lot about Werewolf the Apocalypse. But if that's the case, do let me know in the comments below. And if I'm being completely off the mark with anything that I've said, be more than happy to include your opinions, because you're going to do so whether I tell you to or not. But, you know, all jokes aside, I'd love to hear your different takes about all of this. And it'll be actually quite funny to see how inventive we can get with reflavouring TTRPGs in the similar sort of style. Like, how would you reskin Vampire the Masquerade as D&D or Wraith or whatever? I'd be quite amused by some of those comments, I'm sure. But if you do want to get into Werewolf the Apocalypse and not feel limited by the fact that it's a D&D reskin, you can purchase a handful of books in the description below. Now, if you do that with the links I provide you, I get some of the money back because I'm affiliated from DriveThruRPG, and that little bit of coinage will help the channel develop into such the awesome brand that it is now. And as for the recording of this, we have just hit over 2 million views across the entire channel, which is fucking monkeys bananas, honestly. I'm still trying to reel my mind back in with all of that, because that's fucking bonkers. Like, we wouldn't have been able to have done that without all of your support. So I'm exceptionally grateful for all of that. Like, that's a milestone that was so fucking out there that I never even considered it. And we've just passed 15,000 YouTube subscribers, which is also pretty cool as well. And I'm trying to think of a way like to celebrate that, because it's kind of a big milestone, really. So if you've got any ideas of things that we could do to celebrate that, leave those in the comments below, because it'll be interesting to see what you come up with and how we can like develop those ideas into something cool for you lot to watch and possibly partake in, depending on what the ideas are. Now, going back to the books, if you have those books already but want to support the channel financially still, what you can do is copy and paste the magical affiliate code in the description and paste it in the URL of any drive-through RPG book, Storyteller's Vault, DM's Guild, or whatever the sister sites are up there, and add it to your basket. I get some of the money back that way as well. So you get books, I get books, and you get content for free. So really, it's all in your favour, really, which is absolutely amazing shit, really. Now, I can understand if you can't do that because times are hard and all of that. But if you can do that, that'd be absolutely fantastic. If you can't, that's absolutely fine. But what you should do regardless, give the videos a thumbs up to tell me that you like it, subscribe to the Lore by Night channel, and share this video with any and everyone who loves what I do, and I'll see you on the next upload, whenever that may well be for you. And until next time, farewell.